This is the mission of opportunity for Team 1, L-Space Academy Level 1. The one main goal of our project is to implement the design of a lander that's going to safely deliver a payload to the surface of Mars. We were given a few constraints to keep in mind while designing the lander. We have a budget of $20 to spend on the materials for the lander. We shouldn't exceed a mass of 500 grams, and the lander should fit in the 30-centimeter cube. The lander is going to be dropped from a height of 9 meters and target a 5-foot landing ellipse. So we decided to use a nylon parachute attached to the top of the lander with twine to slow its descent. We originally had the idea of having airbags forming the exterior of the lander to protect it, but we rejected this because we thought it might bounce too much and cause the lander to stray too far away from the target ellipse. So the basic shape of the lander is a triangular pyramid made of 4 equilateral triangles with sides of 30 centimeters in length. The side panels will be attached at the top, and they can be separated from one another upon the lander reaching the surface of the planet. The pyramid's going to be made out of corrugated plastic, which we found to be both cheap and lightweight, while still being sturdy enough to reliably hold the payload. The predicted cost of all of the materials, including the parachute, is $19.72, putting us within the budget, and the total weight of the lander is about 390 grams.
Here's a CAD model of the same design that the duo was talking about. As you can see on the left, we have what is essentially a pyramid that is connected to a base via 3 steel springs. The springs are there to absorb the impact the force of the impact when it lands. And on the right, you can see a CAD model of what the parachute would essentially look like. The parachute would have 3 holes cut at approximately 120 degrees from each other. That is connected with twine to the top, and there is a hole cut through the top. The springs are there, and they're on each corner of the triangle to maximize the spread of the force.
Okay, so a little later we will go over how exactly the payload goes with the lander. But the basic idea behind our experiment is to collect photometric data that's going to try to detect fluorescent microbial colonies on Mars. Our target microbe for our experiment is cyanobacteria, because this particular microbe has been found to be able to live in extreme conditions, such as in the terrestrial polar regions. And since conditions on Mars are similar to the regions that these microbes are found in, there is a possibility of finding microbes on Mars. Specifically, we picked out glacier-like forms because they are thought to be mixed with water ice and regolith, which is broken up rocks. And from studies on Earth, this regolith should be able to provide more protection for the microbes from things like UV exposure, dust storms, and they might even be able to cause local melting in some regions, which would provide liquid water for the microbes. Okay, so our particular landing site is a glacier-like form located at about 116 degrees east and 39 degrees north. And it was chosen based off of elevation, slope, latitude, and thermal inertia constraints. And so the idea behind these cyanobacteria, they fluoresce when their pigment proteins absorb the right wavelength, and then they expel the extra light that they don't need. And so what we can do is we can shine a light on them and get them to fluoresce and try to capture this fluorescence with a CMOS camera, which is shown to the right there, the red thing. And it's similar to a CCD camera in that it takes the light that it collects and it turns it into an electrical signal that we can analyze on Earth. For this experiment, we're also going to need a lens so that we can decrease our field of view as much as we can, so we can get the best images for small, faint microbial colonies that we hope to image. And we're also going to need a bypass filter or a bandpass filter to prevent us from capturing any light that's not going to be fluorescence from the microbes. This filter has a center wavelength of 650 nanometers, which is also where a common type of pigment protein peaks in its emission spectrum. So there's a good possibility of capturing fluorescence.
And I'm not sure if Mallory mentioned this, but CMOS stands for complementary metal oxide semiconductor. That's very similar to the CCD sensors, which are similar cameras, but CMOS cameras are much less expensive and much more energy efficient. This leads into the conversation of where these sensors are going to be located. They're going to be inside the pyramid, and are going to be shielded from impact so they don't crack or aren't damaged when the lander lands. They're going to be facing downward, so the sensor and the light are both pointing down to the ground. There will be a mechanism by which we will open the bottom, and that will allow the sensor and the light to shine downward and collect images from below the lander. When the lander arrives, the panels will open, and there are solar panels on the inside. This will allow us to collect solar radiation to decrease the size of the battery we need, because these sensors and flashlight do take up a significant amount of energy. The battery will be located right next to them.
Okay, so after all is said and done, we hope to capture images that look something like this. This is from a study done in the Atacama Desert in Chile. They basically use fluorescent imaging techniques to take pictures of microbial colonies. So that's the goal of our experiment.